Hi everyone, it's Day, and I am a paranormal author and I also write romantic suspense. Today I wanted to read the first part of my new book that comes out April 10th, which is called Kiss by Flames. And it needs just a little bit of backstory for this book. Most of my books really can be read in separately, but in this case, this is the story of Burke and Lily, and they were, secondary characters in book 2, which was Nessa and Kyle's story. And hi, Charlie. And the the sister of the hero is the heroine of this book, and the brother of the heroine is the hero of this book. And in book 2, the hero and heroine were in trouble. There was a bad guy after them. And in order to take out his anger, he attacked the hero. But in the process, the sister, who's the heroine of book 3, was also injured. And so heroine 2's brother protected her for a few weeks. As soon as he met her, he knew instantly that she was his mate, and that he had to have her. The problem was she was human and she hated dragons because she'd been injured by one in the past. So this is the start of the story. It's just the first scene. Fate sure as hell was laughing at him today, and Bert Caspian couldn't take it any longer. Or rather, his dragon couldn't handle not having the delicious Lily Harper in his life. Sure, she was a human, but if he didn't convince his future mate to go out with him, and soon, not only would his inner animal explode, his work would suffer. And that could jeopardize the lives of many people. Burke extended his claws and then folded his wings as he landed on the lush green grass of the park just down the street from Lily's apartment. Once he shifted, he straightened his beige button-down shirt and then made sure his hair was out of his face before he made his way to her place. With each step, his nerves increased, which was wrong on so many levels. Being the head of security for Sincast and Gems and Metals, he was as tough as they came. So how could some blonde-haired beauty with so many emotional walls bring him to his knees with a shake of her head? Mate, mate, his dragon reminded him. Like I could ever forget? The only problem was that Lily kept refusing to go out with him, even after his protection detail guarding her had ended. And that was causing him undue mental stress. It wasn't as if Burke was a weak man, far from it. He was one of the most respected of all the Guardians, even battling some of Pterodon's biggest foes. Yet here he was, feeling dejected and desperate. Lily will give in this time. I can feel it in my bones, his dragon said, though it sounded like fake encouragement. And remember to smile, for goddess sakes. You look like an ogre most of the time with all your flexing muscles and perpetual frown. Fuck off. I got this. Or so he hoped. He didn't need to explain to his dragon that his constant frown was because of Lily's negative attitude towards dragon shifters in general. His sour disposition also stemmed from the fact that she didn't want to go out with him, now or ever. He entered a building and strode up to the new wooden door he'd replaced after her attack. Burke straightened his shoulders and knocked. The addition of the peephole was his suggestion, since the last thing she needed was her ex-boyfriend, Neelor Dobbins, the dragon shifter who burned her, to return. Burke had paid for the door repair, not to earn her favor, but in the hopes it would help her understand that not all dragons were bad. From her reaction to him over the last few weeks, though, she might never change her mind. A china cup hit its saucer and tinkled lightly. Then the voices on the television lowered, and no footsteps neared. He knocked again. It's Burke, Lily. I need to talk to you. As if she could float without making any noise, the knob twisted and her face appeared around the edge of the door. Instantly his nails lengthened and his skin started to harden into scales. Down, boy. She's so lovely, his dragon shot back. Devoid of makeup, Lily was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Her creamy white skin and long, blonde hair were in stark contrast to her gorgeous green eyes. And those naturally red lips were made for kissing. When her sweet lavender scent wafted over him, his dragon clawed his insides. Burke yearned to run his hand down her arm, but he didn't want to upset her. "Is something wrong, Burke?" she asked, not stepping to the side to let him in. Yes, a hell of a lot was wrong, but he'd keep that to himself. "I just stopped by to see how you were doing. Mind if we talk?" She glanced behind her. He hoped it was to see if her place looked presentable and not to stall for time. He didn't sense she had any company. "Sure," she said, breaking eye contact. When he stepped past her, heat swelled inside him. If he weren't careful, his dragon would do more than pant and growl when he was near her. She only came up to his chest, then he swore she was even smaller than the last time he'd come knocking, which made him want to protect her even more. Burke faced her. "Neeler hasn't shown up again, has he?" She jerked at the dragon shifter's name. "No, he won't come around either, not with a warrant out for his arrest." Burke's job as head of security at the mines meant he believed in following the rules. Hopefully Lily appreciated that fact. But unless her brother told her about Burke being a member of the Guardians, she would have no idea how much he cared about people. No other strange men looking about? When she furrowed her brows, he wanted to take back his question. He sucked at small talk, probably because most of the women of Pterodon asked him out, not the other way around. Clearly, being face-to-face with his mate caused his social skills to disappear. "No. Once Landry Madison was caught and killed, no one else has threatened me. I'm invisible once more, just the way I like it." She tossed him a quick smile, but it didn't seem to hold much joy, only nervousness. As much as Burke wanted to reach out and caress her face to soothe her sorrow, he didn't dare. "You're hardly invisible, Lily. You're not only beautiful, but you have an important job. People know who you are." She broke eye contact once more. "Thank you." Burke cleared his throat. "I came by in part because I wanted to see if you would have dinner with me. Just so you know, I'm going to keep asking until you say yes." He winked, trying to act cool. "A wink? Are you kidding me?" his arrogant dragon asked. "I'll be surprised if she doesn't shove you out the door now." Lily let out a breath when she touched his arm. Heat swamped him once more, and no doubt his ruby scales were doing a dance under his skin. Sheesh, Lily didn't need to see his brown eyes turn turquoise with lust or his scales flash under his skin, showing how much she affected him. She was already skittish enough as it was. "I appreciate the offer, but like I told you before, I'm not ready to date anyone." Those words seared his heart. "Is it because I'm a dragon shifter?" Burke asked, keeping his voice soft and low. "No." Her glance to the floor implied that was a lie. "Does it bother you that your brother is mated to a dragon?" And that Kyle was now one too. Her lips twisted. "Not anymore. Nessa is a great person." "And I'm not?" His dragon growled. "Don't act offensive. Fuck off, you fire-breathing animal." "My sister is wonderful, but I'm only asking you to dinner. I promise not to shift or shoot fire at anybody." That was assuming he didn't have to protect some innocent person from harm. "Burke, please. I know I owe you my life for protecting me all those weeks against my brother's former assistant and his minions, but now I prefer to be by myself." "I understand." No, he didn't. But Burke had no idea how to counter that response. He'd seen how joyous his sister was after mating, and he firmly believed that Lily could be just as happy if she gave him a chance. Just because she said no this time didn't mean he would give up. "I'll stop by again to make sure you're okay." Lily lifted her chin upward. "I think it'd be best if you didn't." His gut lurched, but begging wasn't his style. At least not yet. "If that's the way you want it, I won't then. Goodbye, and take care, Lily." Each word sliced off a bit of his heart. It took all of his control to walk out of the door and not punch the wall. She'd rejected him. Again. Had it been something he'd said? Burke had taken excellent care of her when those men were after his family and hers, yet he never once put the moves on her, and fate sure as hell knew how much he wanted to. Her brother, Kyle, told him Lily had also been emotionally scarred by Neeler, but that didn't make it any easier to accept her ultimatum. She was his mate, and he needed her. Burke was convinced that with time and a little help from his sister and Lily's brother, she would come around. The question was whether he could last that long. So that's the first scene of the book 3 of The Hidden Realms of Silver Lake. So I thought I'd just briefly touch on, and I really would love your opinion on what the tropes are in in romance. For example, this story, Lily really hates all dragons because of, because of one bad incident, and that is a typical trope. I work hard when I start a book to come up with something different. When I was writing romantic suspense, it was almost impossible to really be unique with each of your stories, because a romantic suspense means somebody's in danger and someone has to get the bad guy, and usually, not always, the woman's in danger. Like if it's a serial killer, the serial killer, we see how horrible he is, and then he captures the woman and we're like, oh no, he's going to do the same thing to her he did to the last 10 victims that he murdered and flailed alive. And so we're really scared, and then the hero or someone comes and saves her. Or maybe she can save herself, but whatever. And so that's pretty typical. You know, if it's called romantic suspense, it's kind of hard not to have someone in danger. And I love romantic suspense, so I put those in my stories. Sometimes the heroine is not always the one in danger. The guy may be, or but usually the woman ends up in trouble. But sometimes she can save herself, and maybe the guy helps out, depending on who's the dragon shifter and who's the human or who's the other shifter, etc. And so I was looking at this one site that kind of lists the typical tropes, and I was really curious, what are some of your favorite tropes that you really like? And like book 2, the Seduced by Flames, were enemies to lovers because they were definitely at odds with each other. Book 1 was a little harder to say if there was even a trope, because the hero was on Earth and the heroine was on Pterodon, and she tried to convince him through mind dreaming that she was real, and he had to kind of put his faith in what he believed and went for it. I don't even know if I would call that a trope. Some of them are marriage of convenience, and those were one of my favorites. Now, of course, I grew up reading Harlequin and historicals. That's all we had from Kathleen Woodwis and all those absolutely wonderful, wonderful authors. But you know, we all signed up for the Harlequin a month deal, and we got sent the books. And so I'm curious, what kind of tropes did you really like? Here are a few of them. Kind of marriage of convenience, which doesn't really fit well with a shifter story, but I still like those. Second chances, which is what my book 4 is going to be. Women in Danger, of course, is what most of the stories are of some. Beauty and the Beast. That's a great part in what book 3 is, the Burke and Lily story. Won't tell you who the beast is and who the beauty is. This one where they don't like, and this is her too, the men and the women, they had one bad experience, and so they don't like them. And this is very typical and contemporary, where the guy can't commit because the woman the woman can't commit anymore. She hates all men because she was stood up at the altar, so therefore all men are bad. You know, that kind of thing. One true love is what naturally in my stories has to happen, because my whole world is based on fated mates, where you get one mate and that's it, and when you meet them, you know. Whether the other person knows is, you know, who knows? Because I think if they both believed it, it might make it difficult to have a reason for them not to be together, or else there'd be an awful lot of sex in the story. In book 4, my hero's already been mated before, so that definitely, and the woman died in battle. So needless to say, that is a big bugaboo, and I got to figure out how to overcome that one. Reformed rakes, again, the word rake here implies kind of historical, but I think a lot of people with all the motorcycle stuff, they love the bad boy. I'm not a bad boy author. I wish I could write the bad boy, but I'm afraid I wouldn't like some jerk who, even though he's reformed at the end, I can see maybe a playboy who then falls for the woman, but as far as him mistreating the woman, yeah, not for me. The tension of the story is all based on a lie. I did write a book which will be coming out in May. It's a very, very dark contemporary romantic suspense. She's an undercover cop, and we know that from page 1, but the hero does not know it. He thinks she's something else. And as time goes on, she's undercover, so she believes she's in love with him and that she trusts him. On the other hand, can she really, when do you tell the person you've fallen for and finally trust, yeah, everything I told you is a lie. I'm really blank, blank, blank. I'm a cop, or there was a huge bet that I would go out with you, and I did. Needless to say, that doesn't go over well when someone really believes in honesty for everything. I had a really hard time writing lies. I did write a sort of a fib for A Billionaire's Roar, and it still doesn't sit well with me. So I don't lie. I don't like people to lie to me. Actually, when I taught school, for like 40 years, 40 as in 40, I started when I was 4, so And I just told the kids, I don't care what the excuse is. If you don't have your homework, you just say, I don't have my homework. I don't need an excuse why. Just say I don't have it, and just never lie to me. If you ever lie to me, you're dead. That's all there's to it. I don't care what you tell me. I promise I won't react. Just, you lied. So that can cause tension in the story, but hopefully it's resolved sooner rather than later. Sometimes I do that, and sometimes I don't, but I am aware that I don't like lies. Another one, and this one sort of plays into book 4, you really don't want to date your best friend's brother or sister, because if it doesn't work out, it's your best friend, and you don't want to hurt your best friend, and your best friend will be hurt if the relationship goes bad. And in book 4, it's Declan's story, and Finn is in book 1, and he has a twin in Earth. Declan gets flown to Earth in the final book of Werewolves and Witches, Silver Lake, which comes out in June. He sees her, and it's like, oh my goodness, like, I really feel attracted to her, but she can't be my mate because I've already had one. And Chelsea, Finn's twin, also feels this incredible attraction, so much so that she begs her twin brother to take her back to Pterodon to see whether or not this can something come of it, because they only were with each other for like 30 minutes, and from that she's basing everything, that maybe they are mates, but in reality they can never be mates because you only get one. So that one is going to be a little sort of a fun, tricky thing. And again, I just copied these off a sheet. The Bet. I dare you to go out with Peggy Sue. She's the class nerd, and then of course he finds out that she's really beautiful and wonderful, and they fall in love. Something like that. Not really what may fit in my stories, but I can see a possibility. The Blind Date. Sure. I know this wonderful girl, and of course, if you're a shifter, you know that when you meet her, you meet her. And so, does that work? I've had break his heart to save him because it's not fair to her. And in the story I'm writing now, it's possible, since he believes that he can only have one mate, which he can. If he falls for her, they're too heavily involved, he may have to break it off because it's not fair to her. He was thinking even in himself, maybe we can have kids, have a family, but is that really fair, because she'll never get that one mate that she deserves. Excuse me. Allergies. Can't live with them and can't live without them. So I'm really curious what, thank you. What are your favorite tropes? And I don't care if they're for contemporary tropes. I mean, sometimes I can, work them in, but I do face, I know the plot for book 4, but I have no idea. I think I know who's in book 5. If you've read the series, I had a water dragon in book 2. And I love the water dragon. I even know who it is. But I have to figure out, how I want to bring him in, etc. And, is that another lie one? He's got these magical powers that no one else has. Because he's a dragon, so he can shoot fire, but he also can shoot water. He turns big and blue, and he can put fires out. And maybe he doesn't want to go around telling the world that he is. Otherwise, maybe all he'll be doing is flying around putting out the fires. I don't know. I haven't thought any ideas. I would love to hear them. I'm always interested. A lot of times some of the readers will say, oh, you should have so-and-so. And I've done this many times, and I go, really? You want that person? Yeah, you could reform him. And I'm like, I've done that. I've done a few reforms. That's hard. But I like to do something different in the stories. Once you get into the series and you know who the characters are, it's sort of easier to come up with... Me too. Anxious to find out who it is, but I've already told you that. I know that, but I'm not telling you that, Tammy. I don't think I've even told Carol, who's the first editor, maybe I did tell her, who the water dragon is. I changed my mind about 3 times. And by the way, when I do write the stories, I think, catch Tammy one time and not know. Tammy, she figures everything out, but I think I got her at the end of Burke and Lily's story as to who was it, or maybe not. Someone did. Because I changed my mind. I had written the whole book, and then, yes, Carol's on. Wonderful. Carol said the ending didn't work. And I went, yeah, you're right. It wasn't logical. I kind of forced it. So I rewrote. I'm like, okay, if he's not the bad guy, who's the bad guy? And then the person I picked was absolutely perfect. All the clues had already been in the story, and it worked really, really well. So, yeah, Cassie, I like the idea one made at a time. The problem is my world has been set, so I got to come up with something new. But anytime you guys have suggestions for things, I've often taken them and go, oh, that's a really good idea. And I've written, can I steal that? So to me, if you put any suggestions here, they're mine. I take them, warp them, but I really do work hard. I do try not to make my stories the same. I'm sure I've read authors when I'm like, haven't I read this before? Because you read like a couple in a series, and I'm like, okay, that's the same story as the last one. And some people say, oh, it's the same story, they just changed the names. Not true, but I know it sounds like it, especially when you write women in danger. The bad guy comes after her, they capture her, and then the good guys come and, oh, fight. Oh, we save her, blah, 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 blah. So, yes, that can happen. Or if the heroine is bigger, she may come and, fight off the bad guys and save the guy, which... I don't know if that's cool, but someone's got to save somebody, or else they escape and save themselves. But yeah, and I think the book in May I'm writing, the last book, she saves herself pretty much, which I do like because it's a little bit different. And but I'm always looking for suggestions. So if you have any of your favorite tropes, I'm sure you've read some stories or like, wow, I like it. Some people like the May to December thing, where of course my dragons are 120 and my humans are 30, so it's only a 90-year difference, but he looks 30, so it's kind of the same. So any suggestions that you have, I'm always willing to take some suggestions and twist it up and put them together and see what works. So, and any suggestions for next week's talk, I'll have to come up with something for you. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Easter. I believe I am probably not leaving the condo. Apparently, Easter Sunday is a far bigger deal, I think, than Christmas, because Christmas they're out partying. And so apparently we're going to be inundated, and they've asked if we don't need a parking space to let them know, because apparently everyone invites all 29 of their relatives to stay at their condo, and it'll be a complete zoo. Didn't know Easter was that big, but here, since I think 99% of the people here are Catholic, it's a huge, huge thing. So anyway, no, I didn't read the whole comment, Cassie, but I will. So I can't, it's hard for me to read and talk at the same time, and I'm also reading very small letters on my phone. So until next week, happy reading, and I hope you all get a chance to download Kiss by Flames. When I get it formatted, I will be putting it up on my website and offering it a week early to my readers. So you get the real book, you can be the first to read it. And I also give you a little discount. So until next week, I'll see you. Bye.